Hi, everybody. It's Tim Hagan from Progress Coaching. And for the past 34 years, I've been teaching leaders how to coach. And I'll tell you, the foundation of our company, and the reason I wanted to just do a slide deck and not have me on camera is to really focus on the content. Because what I'm about to present to you is something very unique and very different that we've discovered just the last couple of years. But the history is very important. And I would say about 30 years ago, I did a sales training course. And back then, one of the top statistics was about 48 to 52% of all salespeople don't hit their quotas. And I'm like, wow, what a wonderful business opportunity. I can help people. I'm a pretty good salesperson. I'm a good trainer. I can help them and coach them and all those good things. Here's the challenge that was very interesting to me. As time went on, I started to realize something. I started to realize that people weren't applying it. And when I started to reinforce it with coaching, one of my clients at a company called Evan Johnson at the time, now owned by BRP, said, well, is this you or is this the program? And I said, what do you mean? Well, our numbers are up. And I said, well, what do you care? And he said, yeah, but Tim, if something happens to you. And I thought, well, that's true. That's how we built out the first course for coaching, teaching people how to coach. And 30 some years later, I will tell you my most receptive audience as a recipient of coaching. So when I teach leaders how to coach, has always been non-salespeople. To be truthful, I choose not to work with sales teams. I don't need the ego. I don't need the question of, do you have industry experience? Because here's the thing about sales. You either find a way to succeed or you find a way to fail. So when someone says to me, our economy's tough, they've already given in. Now, that might sound crass, that might sound rude. I get that. Yet what we've done is we've come up with a solution that I think is a really big addition to sales teams, if not an almighty decision. We've created a platform called SalesAware, and it is the first customer-driven coaching platform for salespeople. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So when we think about the customer, the one person that salespeople will listen to is the customer. Yet we know that we have roadblocks with salespeople. Ego, I call ego eroding growth opportunity. Lacking self-awareness. It's been estimated 85% of people in the workplace today lack self-awareness. I guarantee you, salespeople do. So what if we could involve the customer to be a part of our reps' personal development process where they benefit, the customer benefits, and certainly the organization benefits? So here's the funny thing. It gives you a sales performance reality. Most coaching is opinion-based. It's based on the numbers. But a lot of times as sales leaders, we can't be everywhere. We can't be on every call. We can't be at every in-person meeting. So this works actually for both, in-person as well as virtual sales teams. And I think I go back to the reality check. When a customer says that a rep is talking too fast, they don't listen, they're trying to sell us something we don't need, or they get stressed when we give them an objection, or when I tell them that we're going to work with a competitor, we get a certain type of behavioral reaction. That's customary. We all go through that. I'm a salesperson by nature. So what do we do about it? The challenge is we don't know what's going on. Let me add a little humor to this. When was the last time a sales rep came back and said, boss, I got to tell you, I blew it. I couldn't negotiate my way out of a paper bag during that meeting. I asked all close-ended questions, and I did not let that customer talk. See, we've unloaded billions of dollars in sales training and certainly sales coaching. The combination of sales training and sales coaching, absolutely powerful, and I would encourage you to do it. But quite frankly, we'd love to talk to you about it. But what if we added another element where the customer provided the coaching insight? So the challenge that we have is, when salespeople go through things and things are good, they'll say, look at me. When things become tough, we come up with things we want to grab off the shelf. Well, they undercut my price. The client never got back to me. The economy's, gone south. And I want to share this with you as a story that I had with an interaction with the VP of Sales and Marketing and Manufacturing. And he said something to me, and I want you to hear this. Now, if you're a VP of Sales or a Director of Sales or a sales leader, please don't take offense to this. But this happens everywhere I go when I deal with sales leaders. It's one of the reasons I chose not to work with sales teams. And I was in a meeting, and the president asked me to sit in, and it was a quarterly sales meeting. He said, "Would you mind sitting in? I'd love to get your opinion." I said, "Sure." And the VP of Sales looks at me and goes, and he knew me, and he said, "So I know that you're here, probably want to do a presentation, and why don't you tell everybody in the room who you are?" And I did, and he said, "So do you have much much industry experience?" I said, "No." And he literally laughed out loud. Now, I know you might be thinking, wait a minute, that's not me, and it probably isn't you. And I just looked at him, and he said, "Well, I guess we can go through with the presentation." And I looked at him, I said, "Are you under the assumption I'm here for a presentation to sell you?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Huh, that's a pretty big assumption." I looked at the president, I said, "Do you want to tell him?" He said, "I just asked Tim to sit in. I don't know why you kicked off the meeting like that. And I certainly don't know why you asked him that question about industry experience. Tim's here so he can identify some opportunities where we can coach our salespeople better." And you could tell the VP got a little uncomfortable. Now, keep in mind, I did not create that challenge. And I said, "Well, do you mind if I ask you something?" He said, "Sure." I said, "Are sales up or down?" And he said, "Well, they're a little down. They were down 17 points. I said, "Are margins down?" So that's kind of a tough question to answer. The president goes, "No, it's not. Our margin's down about 11, 12 points. So we're down 17 points in volume. We're down 11 to 12 points in margin. Pretty wicked combination. Probably a pretty good time to be vulnerable and say, you know what, I could use some help, or yeah, I've got to find a way." And I said, with that response, I said, "Do you have a lot of industry experience?" He said, "Probably 22 years. And I go, "And you're the one with the problem. So what are you going to do?" And he literally said out loud, "Well, we're in a really tough economy right now." I said, "I did not ask you what your problems were. What I asked you was, what are you going to strategically do to turn it around? What do your people need to practice? What skill sets would provide a greater experience to your customers?" If you can't answer that question, then you're going at this with strategy. And quite frankly, your strategy's already been undermined by your own belief system. Now, let me fast forward. He is a great guy, and we're working with them. He is an awesome guy, and we're working with him. And sometimes it's just easy to say, you know what, the economy's tough, because sales is tough. So what we've identified is an opportunity to create a platform, a customer-driven coaching platform. Essentially, each salesperson, each account executive, however you name them, literally gets a form with their own name and picture on it. They or somebody in your company sends it out, and an automation process starts. We grab the information from the form, typically about 10 to 15 responses from customers, and we plug it into our coaching model, and out comes a self-coaching plan, a executive summary, a data summary, and then a coaching plan that the leader can administer. We streamline the coaching process, not only based on reality of what's going on, but based on the almighty perception of the customer. So as we go forward, the reason sales leaders engage with SalesAware is that when you have self-awareness and you're really being honest, everything changes. Learning improves. Traction improves. Let me give you a little bit of history in 2 bullet points. The first bullet point is, in 2008 to 2010 were probably the 2 to 3 best years of my career. Not volume-wise. They were tough times for trainers, coaches. No doubt about it. The Great Recession was not fun, but we held our own. And I remember my partner saying to me, he said, "Tim," and he is my investor as well, he said, "You're going to find out how good you are. Do you preach it or do you live it?" I'll never forget it. Now, this is before Ron decided to invest in our company, and my wife and his wife and we're friends. And I'm like, I don't want a friend investing in my company. And he said, "That's why I invested in you. You found a way to succeed during that time versus a way to come up with excuses not to succeed." He said, "I manage salespeople." That's how my partner, Ron, invested in our company. So as we go forward and we think about what we need to do, one of the things that happens when the rep sends out the link, they will get a live URL. They will actually see how they're being perceived by customers while they're actually selling. The best part is it provides reality and really true perception also for the sales leader to apply coaching. Now, the cool thing that we do here at Progress Coaching is we actually have a proven coaching framework called Qualms. It is the Progress Coaching Framework. So we teach leaders how to coach, but more importantly, through SalesAware, we actually create output that is 1000% in alignment with how we teach how to coach. So once leaders go through our sales coaching training course, then what they can do is get plans and self-coaching plans and help the rep administer to him or herself. And what that allows us to do is build continuity. The organizational impact is huge. And what it does is it improves consistency. It drives self-awareness. And there's something that subtly happens. The relationship from the rep to the customers improve. See, when a customer sees somebody actively listening more, not rushing the meetings, maybe, improving their product knowledge, whatever the results show, what this essentially does is it improves the relationship. See, the customer has a vested interest in this relationship. When the customer is invested, it's really hard to fire someone that you've invested in. The sales rep improves where he or she hopefully developing some self-awareness, and when the self-awareness door opens, everything gets better. They're willing to improve. They're willing to practice. They're willing to look in the mirror because you know what? My customer said so. Whether sales leaders want to hear this or not, a lot of times when they coach or they mentor, a lot of reps will nod. It doesn't mean they're in agreement. Yet when the customer says something, everything changes. So what we do is we tend to train people on selling, we hope, and we measure revenue. What SalesAware does is we measure perception, we coach behaviors, we improve revenue. See, behavior drives performance. Awareness drives behavior. See, I always love to ask this question, and I just did this, and while I'm recording this, I'm at the Training Magazine conference in Florida, and I was talking to a bunch of sales leaders, and I ask this question all the time. I've never had it over 20%. I said, how many of you have scheduled sales skill-based practice sessions as it relates to your industry? I always get this answer. Well, what we try to do, occasionally, we don't do it enough. I get that all the time. If salespeople are not practicing, they are not improving. If they're not practicing a competitor price objection and it comes up a lot, they're just going to show up. They're going to shoot from the hip. And it will come off like they're shooting from the hip. So the challenge that we have is how do we go from guessing to growing? And the way you do that is to create a rich experience. Now, our questions in our assessment are based on skills such as listening, conversation skills, product knowledge, industry knowledge. Not that we're product training experts, but more importantly, the perception that the answers can be delivered to the customer. So this is a very cool process, and I would encourage you to think about SalesAware. So again, let me bring this up real quickly if I could. This is let me bring this up. I think I can make this bigger. Here we go. So if you want to scan that QR code and you're interested in maybe doing a call with us, I would really encourage you to do it. And here's why. This, we believe, is the first, this is not customer surveys. The results are per employee. You'll get results per employee on a quarterly basis. So some people will do a pilot with us, but most of the time what we'll do is we run the results every single quarter. So the coaching is always fresh based on what's going on in the marketplace. Number two, what we're really doing is we're making an investment in each and every sales rep. So this isn't just about the sales team. This is about individual sales team members. And this aligns with their goals. It aligns with what that person needs to improve. And it positions their leader to directly coach based on what's actually going on in the marketplace. So hopefully this has intrigued you. Let me also give you a little bit of my background, which is emotional intelligence. I'm certified through MHS out of Canada. I will tell you that 48 to 52% of people, when I cited that statistic over 30 years ago, don't hit their quotas. That number hasn't changed. So when companies like CSO Insights and HubSpot do their studies, that's typically where the number resides today. And people said, what do you think they need to do? I said, first, become really self-aware. Number two, improve upon that self-awareness and what it teaches you. And if it's selling skills, closing skills, negotiation skills, better attitude towards conversation, better relationship building, whatever that is, it's usually on an individual basis. See, we often send our sales teams to sales training, but every one of those team members have individual needs. And if we can couple that with customer feedback and coaching, it's a powerful, powerful combination. So again, scan that QR code if you want to schedule a time for us to chat. If you can't get behind my calendar, and I'm not the only coach on staff, send me an email at tim@progresscoachingleader.com. Put right on the subject line, or if you want to put in the comments here today, just put SalesAware, and I will not only send you a link to schedule some time, I'll actually show you a live simulation as the results are coming in. So I hope this has intrigued you. SalesAware, it is the first, what we believe, customer-driven coaching platform for salespeople. Thanks, everybody. I hope this is worth it. Let me know.